Saba Moeel, and today I'll be sharing insights on community building and the lessons I've learned through my experience with viral fame. I come to you as a product designer, illustrator, artist, blockchain entrepreneur, and social media expert. Throughout my career, I've created best-selling physical products and designs for Oaklandish, the Golden State Warriors, Beyonce, East Bay Regional Parks, the Oakland Arena, Tupac Shakur, the Oakland Zoo, and many others. My work with Oaklandish as a designer has allowed me to create on a platform that touches all of Oakland and the Bay Area. For those unfamiliar, Oaklandish is an apparel company that cultivates civic pride as a certified B Corp, committed to building a strong, positive community in Oakland. We design and sell merchandise for the Oakland Roots Soccer Club, the Oakland Ballers, the new WNBA team, the Golden State Valkyries, as well as products for local airports. Creating positive culture during a challenging time in Oakland's history aligns deeply with my values. But this is just one facet of my design career. While I value the ability to shape culture through e-commerce at Oaklandish, I've also pivoted from apparel design to visual design to product design, and I'd like to share a little bit about my evolution and why. Recently, I've been developing 2 apps, Dog Friends, an exercise and localized social media that connects dog owners in Berkeley, and Superfeed, a search engine specifically for social media users that connects multiple platforms for simultaneous side-by-side content searches. I develop these applications in the evenings between feeding my 10-year-old daughter and driving her to sports practices, constantly seeking new ways to discover insights through social media. To understand how I arrived at this point in my journey as a product designer and community builder, let me share more about my background. My story begins in the mid-'80s when my family escaped war-torn Iran, arriving in America with hope for a new beginning. Growing up in the East Bay as a Middle Eastern immigrant shaped my perspective in ways I'm still discovering. I navigated between worlds, speaking Farsi at home with my parents, using what I call my NPR voice at school, and embracing Bay Area slang with friends. After a year at UCLA, I transferred to Parsons School of Design in New York, where I earned my BFA in fashion. For a decade, I thrived in Manhattan's fast-paced fashion industry. Then life took an unexpected turn. A surprise pregnancy brought me back to California to be near my family as I entered motherhood. This transition was profoundly challenging. I found myself in an unhappy marriage, struggling with the realization that I didn't want to work in an office while someone else raised my child. I needed to find a way to create art from home while supporting myself financially. During this period of transition, I began exploring creative outlets that could both fulfill me artistically and provide income while working from home. My efforts eventually caught media attention, with the LA Times featuring my work and even dubbing me the Gen Z Garfield, a testament to how my art was resonating with younger audiences. In 2016, Pink Cat was born. What began as simple doodles evolved into something profound, a visual diary capturing the complex feelings of a millennial woman navigating adulthood against the backdrop of the Bay Area. Through pen and marker drawings posted daily on Instagram under the title Pink Cat Daily, I documented experiences with divorce, single motherhood, substance use, and complicated relationships. The Pink Cat universe expanded to include a pantheon of characters, including 4 men representing archetypical toxic masculinity. By illustrating these scenarios with humor and raw honesty, I found myself laughing at my own questionable decisions while processing deeper emotions. What I never expected was how many others would see themselves in my work. Through strategic use of hashtags like pink aesthetic, dating, comics, my audience grew organically. Women began sharing my cartoons in their Instagram stories, and suddenly thousands of messages flooded in from around the world, with one refrain being repeated constantly: I am Pink Cat. Pink Cat is me. My following grew to over 250,000 people, 90% women, primarily ages 18 to 40. This community wasn't just engaged, they were invested. Over 4 years, their support generated more than $250,000 in merchandise sales, allowing me to build a genuine career from my art. This experience connects directly to my current work in product design, understanding community needs, creating platforms that foster connection, and recognizing the power of authentic expression. The transition from creating content to designing platforms that host content represents a natural evolution in understanding of digital communities. Through this journey, I discovered several powerful lessons about community building that apply to anyone interested in social media, brand development, and product design. Let me share these insights with you. The first lesson I learned is about capturing authentic emotions. In his book, Peter Thiel discusses how business success often comes from discovering secrets, those unspoken truths that resonate deeply. Through what I call shadow work, exploring my own difficult emotions through sketching and humor, I revealed personal secrets that connected powerfully with others. Yes, sharing intimate details of my relationships, dating experiences, and painful moments felt like an uncomfortable overshare at times. It certainly embarrassed some of my family members. But this vulnerability produced authentic engagement because people recognize truth when they see it. They're drawn to content that acknowledges the complicated realities we all live with, but rarely discuss openly. The principle applies directly to product design. When developing products, I'm constantly asking what unstated needs exist? What frustrations do people experience but rarely articulate? Creating successful digital products, like creating viral content, requires tapping into these unspoken truths. My second insight addresses what truly makes content go viral. For Pink Cat, I developed a formula that proved remarkably effective. I identified trending content on Twitter, often text-based jokes or observation, and transformed them into visual stories featuring my character. This cross-platform approach worked brilliantly for several reasons. Many Instagram users weren't on Twitter, so this content felt fresh to them. For those who used both platforms, there was delight in seeing familiar content reimagined through the Pink Cat lens. The visual interpretation added emotional resonance to what began as text. This strategy directly informed my concept for Superfeed. I recognize that people struggle to navigate between platforms, missing connections between related content. By creating a product that bridges these divides, I'm applying the lesson that cross-platform integration adds significant value. With growth, inevitably comes criticism, which brings me to my third lesson. No matter what you create online, you will face backlash. The question isn't if, but when and how you'll respond. As one of the early artists repurposing viral tweets and illustrations, I received significant criticism about content attribution. Initially, when people demanded credit in aggressive ways, they wanted me to tag them, I simply blocked them. Later, friends advised me to tag original posters as a strategic approach, even though I found it somewhat frustrating, given that meme culture rarely follows attribution standards. I ultimately made this compromise not because I fully agreed with the criticism, but because it reduced friction and allowed me to continue building my community. This experience directly informs my product design approach, anticipating points of friction and designing solutions that balance multiple perspectives. The backlash intensified as my profile grew. In June 2020, at the height of the BLM protests in Oakland, someone launched a Pink Cat Canceled Instagram page on my birthday, the same day I opened my brick and mortar store on Broadway here in Oakland. This page featured doctored cartoons showing my character saying racist things I had never expressed. As a Middle Eastern woman and war survivor, being falsely painted as racist was devastating, especially given my deep connection to diverse communities in Oakland. This experience taught me that visibility makes you vulnerable to attacks that often have little to do with you, your actual work, or character. This brings me to my fourth lesson, knowing when and how to pivot. After weathering cancellation attempts and seeing the changing landscape of social media, I recognized the Web 2.0 was becoming increasingly hostile to creators. I turned my attention to emerging technologies, particularly in the crypto space. I sourced developers from Twitter Spaces, created a Discord community of 8,000 members, and educated my largely female audience about crypto and NFTs. As someone from the Middle East, I was drawn to blockchain's potential to disrupt traditional banking systems that have contributed to colonialism and global inequality. We sold about 200 NFTs before the crypto crash, a modest success that nonetheless taught me valuable lessons about community adaptation. This experience directly informed my transition to UX UI design and product development. I learned to recognize when a platform or approach has reached its limitations and to evolve accordingly. Through these experiences, the viral success, the merchandise sales, the cancellation attempts, and the pivots, I learned at my most important realization, I no longer wanted to be the product on someone else's platform. I didn't want to receive pennies as a performer in what I came to see as Mark Zuckerberg's zoo, generating engagement and profit primarily for massive tech companies. Instead, I wanted to create platforms that would empower others. This insight led me to enroll in UC Berkeley's UX UI certification program to learn app development. Since completing the program, I've created websites for two prominent Bay Area businesses and began developing my own applications. At Oaklandish, I'm able to combine my visual design skills with my understanding of community building to create products that foster civic pride. Meanwhile, my personal projects allow me to explore new frontiers in social connection. I still draw and post as Pink Cat on Instagram, but I've entered a new chapter, moving from content creation to platform development. My goal is now to build tools that empower other creators to connect authentically with their communities without surrendering ownership of their work or relationships. What I hope you'll take from my journey is that community building transcends platforms. Whether you're designing merchandise for a local sports team, developing a social app, or creating content, the principles remain the same: authentic expression, strategic adaptation, thoughtful responses to criticism, and willingness to evolve. The digital landscape will continue to transform, but the human desire for connection and authentic expression remains constant. By honoring that truth in both content and product design, we can build communities that not only survive, but thrive through all the inevitable changes ahead. Thank you for your attention. I welcome your questions and would love to continue these conversations. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or visit my website for more information about my work, both past and present. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm gonna take a look at the questions here. I can't tell if there are any questions. Yes, yay. Shout out Oakland. Beyonce was casually in that list. Yes, I designed something for the Coach Carter collection that's on her website now. And yeah, unless there's any other questions, Angie, feel free to step in. And thank you for sharing your story. You're so very welcome. Thank you for listening. I know it's a bit of a non-traditional path.
Thank you for sharing. So I have some questions for you, if you like.
Sure.
I just tripped over my charger. Okay. What is you just gave a great story about your evolving career, but I want to know about the best career advice that you've ever received.
The best career advice. I think the best career advice I received was to pursue UX UI design, and that came from my mentor. My biggest mentor is my cousin, who's head of product at Rakuten, and he told me that you went to Parsons, you have this fancy design degree, you really should be designing products. You should get into tech. You have the background of an influencer, you know how the platforms work, the ups and downs, and that's really where you should be going, and that's really the future. And I said, well, I'm good at marketing. And he said, no, marketing's the first budget that gets cut. You should go into product. And I really took that to heart and I pursued that. And I'm so glad that I did. And I'm so glad that I had somebody in my life who pushed me towards tech.
That is actually interesting insight. Okay, interesting. We have a question here from Mary in the comments. Did you get people telling you that design wasn't the right path?
I mean, I would say only my dad, right? Both my parents are engineers. They're both pipeline chemical engineers. petroleum engineers. So for them, I'm the first artist in my entire family. And they were like, no, my sister's an attorney. I designed her website, which, boosted my points within the family, I suppose. But yes, that was pretty much the only person who told me no was my dad. And it's just because engineers have a different mind. I see that too with working with devs. And people who code, certainly, like I had to learn coding, but it's not where my strengths lie. And I think that certain personalities are really geared toward coding and very technical, both in their personal lives and professional lives. And artists, content creators, definitely not necessarily that. So, yeah.
I see a question from Jules about, do you have any advice for connecting with local business or community members to start getting practice as someone who is taking a non-traditional path into product and UX design? Jules is a healthcare provider currently.
Okay. So, connecting with local businesses, I would
Business
say
slash community members to start getting some real life practice
for design, I'm not
into
sure.
product and UX design.
Okay, so UX design, I'd say that the biggest thing is just cold calling people, looking at their LinkedIn, trying to cross-reference them on Instagram, trying to find their Twitter, coming up with conversations, basically looking up a company and seeing who works there and following them, reacting to their posts, and actually just building with them on a personal level. I think that's the way to go. Is my friend once said, to do business, you have to make friends. So get out there and make friends with that person in any way you can.
Swati wants to know, what does Pink Cat think about tech companies?
Pink Hat definitely wants to be a tech company to do it right. I definitely admire tech. I think that just growing up here and seeing San Francisco landscape change from what it used to be to all these tech companies having huge signs on the buildings, and that wasn't there before. That's a very impressive evolution to anybody. And I think that I was also influenced with that, where, I'm just in my little bubble, but when I see something like that, oh, all of a sudden the building says next door on it, and it's impressive. And I think that as a creator and as a person who wants to build a platform, I'm definitely interested in becoming a platform and running it in the ways that I think are appropriate and good. So yeah, I'm impressed by it.
I think there's definitely, as we all see in the news, there's a ways to go for the big tech companies to be better to creators, their employees, their users. Um, we have one more minute here. So I guess, well, the last question I'll give you is like, ask you is the one I keep asking people, what's a small mindset shift that you made that made a big difference in your career?
A small mindset difference. I'd say like taking the Pink Hat Daily approach where I used to post every day and applying that to my professional life and saying that, hey, you have these huge goals, but going ahead and just chipping away at it a little bit every single day. And I've even coming up with this presentation, I worked on it a little bit at a time, and then boom, today's the day and it's here. So just that little tiny daily progress is good enough for me.
Sounds good. Thank you for that. That was excellent.
Thank you so much, Angie. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for sharing.